We've all heard the stories of liminal spaces, similar to the back rooms or things like that. But what if, out of nowhere, you seem to be in one of these places? You seem to have found yourself in a liminal space yourself. You seem to be in a place that was full of infinite corridors and passageways and doors to an innumerable amount of... Not only that, but you couldn't even be sure if you were alone. Well, in today's story, that's exactly what we would be discussing. And if you stick around to the end, you'll be able to hear my thoughts on it. Hello, I'm CC and welcome to the Crucible of Character. I love to read these stories and try and explain and try and understand what we can learn from the characters within them. Today's story comes from the r/paranormal encounters subreddit, and it was written by dryshirt5859, and it's entitled, I'm so confused. Can anyone explain what happened to me? And it starts like this. This story might be hard to believe, but it all happened on my birthday during a mountain bike race weekend. Me, 16M, and my friend, 16M, had gone out of town for a mountain bike race weekend. These races usually last 2 days. The first day is practice to learn the course, and the second day is the actual race. After practice, the two of us decided to grab some ice cream. About halfway through mine, I suddenly needed to use the restroom. The shop didn't have one, so I told my friend I'd check the hotel next door. He followed. It was in a small strip mall. It was around 5:30 in the afternoon. As soon as we stepped inside, the place felt strange. The air smelled musty, like old carpet, and there was absolutely nobody around. No workers, no guests, just silence. Well, not complete silence. On the front counter sat one of those little gold, waving cat statues. Its paw clicked rhythmically as it moved up and down, and that sound echoed through the empty lobby, mixing with the harsh buzzing of the fluorescent lights above. That was it. No TV, no voices, no footsteps, just the cat and the lights. We wandered a little, looking for someone to ask about the bathroom, but the place seemed abandoned. Finally, I gave up and started searching on my own. I noticed a restroom sign swaying slightly under one of the lights. I looked at my friend and said, well, looks like this is the way. He sat down on the couch in the lobby while I walked down the hall. The buzzing lights overhead made the whole corridor feel lonelier the further I went. At the end, instead of restroom doors, I found a ballroom, completely empty except for the music equipment on the stage. No instruments, just stands, cables, and a mic quietly humming with static, even though I could not see any speakers. The floor had scattered lights shining on it as if a party had just frozen in place. Overhead hung a static disco ball, its surface reflecting light, but the beams did not move. I looked around, trying to find where the lights were coming from, but I could not see any source. The whole scene felt frozen and unreal. When I turned to leave, I noticed something strange. A doorway leading into what looked like an Indian restaurant, but to the right, another set of open doors stood wide. Curiosity pulled me in. The moment I stepped through, the smell hit me. It was sharp, chemical, unmistakably chlorine, but it wasn't the usual faint pool smell. It was strong, pure, almost choking, like standing over an open bottle of cleaner. Inside was an indoor pool, perfectly still. The water was murky, its surface flat and untouched, reflecting the odd glow of 4 harsh lights in each corner of the room. The shadows they cast stretched unnaturally across the walls, bending and warping the space until it did not even feel like a real pool room anymore. Around the water, sun chairs sat in neat rows, but they looked like they had not been touched in years, coated in a thin film of dust. The walls themselves were strange, wooden, like the fronts of little shops, but instead of storefronts, each one had a plain door, lined up side by side, as if they were rooms. It did not feel like a hotel pool. It felt like something else, something in between. Peak backrooms vibes. I even thought to myself how perfect this would be for one of those liminal space photos I love. The longer I stood there, the heavier it felt, like the chlorine-soaked air was pressing down on my chest. The stillness of the water, the odd shadows, the endless little doors, it all made me uneasy. Finally, I turned back. To the left was the ballroom I had just come from, but straight ahead, the doorway into the Indian restaurant waited, so I chose that path instead. Curious, I walked in, figuring maybe the bathrooms were there. The red carpet crunched under my shoes like it had not been stepped on in years. Dust hung in the air, glowing in the yellow light above the booths. A neon sign flickered over the bar. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard faint Indian music playing. It was soft and warped, almost like it was coming from a broken record machine. I could not tell where it came from. It added another layer to the strange, frozen feeling of the place. It immediately felt off. The restaurant had only booths around the edges and no tables or chairs in the middle, which is unusual. I circled the room, taking it all in. When I looked back toward the bar, I saw something I swear had not been there before. A hallway with a glowing sign that read, "Bathrooms this way." I followed it and finally found the restroom. As I walked, I thought about how perfect this place was for photos. I love liminal spaces, and this was exactly the kind of eerie place that fascinates me. The restroom itself was nothing special. The light was dim, the mirror was cracked, and the paper towel dispenser hung crooked. I washed my hands and pushed the door open, ready to leave. The instant I opened it, the whole world shifted. I was hit with the smell of curry, strong and rich, like someone had just set a steaming dish in front of me. At the same time I heard it, the sound of plates clinking, forks tapping against porcelain, and dozens of voices overlapping in chatter and laughter. The empty air I had walked through minutes earlier was suddenly alive with noise. My stomach dropped. I stepped into the hallway, and when I looked back into the restaurant, it was not the abandoned place I had entered anymore. Families sat in the booths, children laughing as they shared naan. The bar was packed with men talking over each other, beers in hand. Waiters weaved quickly between tables that had not even been there before, balancing trays of food. Bright light spilled across the room, and the dust that had hung heavy in the air was gone. It did not make sense. Just moments earlier, this place had looked forgotten, like nobody had touched it in years. Now it felt warm, alive, and full of energy. I froze in the hallway, goosebumps prickling up my arms, my heart hammering in my chest. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my friend. "Bro, what is taking so long? I'm about to just leave you." I did not even answer. I just wanted to get back. When I stepped into the hallway, I glanced toward the pool room I had seen earlier. My chest tightened when I realized it was no longer still and abandoned. The once murky water now rippled with movement as children splashed and shouted, their laughter bouncing sharply off the tiled walls. Brightly colored floaties and plastic toys bobbed around the pool, cluttering the surface that had been untouched only minutes before. Mothers sat in the sun chairs, wrapped in towels with big beach bags at their feet, talking casually as if they had been there all afternoon. The harsh smell of chlorine was masked now by the humid warmth of body heat and activity, but the echoes of laughter ringing through the space made the whole scene feel even stranger. It was like I had stepped into another time entirely. Trying to act normal, I left the restaurant and walked back towards the lobby, but when I stepped out, my stomach twisted even harder. It was dark outside. My friend was still standing by the couch, but he did not look annoyed. He looked terrified. His face was pale, his hands were shaking a little, and his eyes darted to me like he did not believe what he was seeing. "Bro," he said, his voice tight, "where the heck did you run off to? I was about to call the police. I blew up your phone. I called you like 10 times. You never answered. I even went in there looking for you, man. And you were not there. You were just gone." I don't know," I stammered. And I really did not, and that is all I could speak. I was speechless. The strangest part, now the lobby was not empty. People walked around with suitcases, the TV in the corner blared the news, and a woman at the front desk smiled and called out, "Have a nice day, boys." We walked outside together, and I pulled out my phone to check the time. 8:50. I swear I had only been in there for maybe 5 minutes. I thought about taking pictures, but I could not. After how strange it all felt, the restaurant shifting, the time disappearing, my friend almost calling the cops because I had vanished. I did not want to linger. I just wanted to leave. When I stepped into my car, I sat there in silence. A cold breeze sent a shiver down my spine. The only light was the small overhead mirror inside the car. I looked through the glass doors at the hotel one last time and noticed something. The little gold waving cow was gone. I whispered to myself, "That's it." I started the car and pulled out slowly, still feeling a strange heaviness in my chest. The drive back to our hotel was quiet and unsettling. I was so distracted by everything that happened that I almost ran a red light. My heart was racing, and I have never felt so confused. My friend barely spoke the entire way back. When we arrived, my parents were in our hotel room at a different location. My mom saw me and frowned. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft but serious. "I can see it in your face." "Nothing," I said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just really tired from practice." I went straight to the shower, then crawled into bed, but even lying there in the dark, the smell of curry, the faint music, and the sound of clinking plates clung to me, refusing to let go. I still do not know what really happened, but the whole thing creeps me out even now. That was a really good story. I liked it a lot. I think that it's not often that in a liminal space, at least in my experience, it's not often that in a liminal space type of story do you kind of get those descriptors for the smells. I think that makes the situation much more real. I think it's so interesting how often we don't even realize that in TV and in movies, they don't even bring up the smell or the taste of things. They just exist and hope we kind of understand what they're going through, you know? I think that would definitely add a whole nother layer of depth, and as we see in this story, it definitely did. I think it definitely made it much more real for my visualization in my brain. I think, wouldn't it be interesting if he kind of jumped realities there? If he was in the back room, and then when he came out of the bathroom, he was in a different universe altogether, and his other friend is still waiting for him. Maybe they switched places. That'd be kind of interesting to think about, him and another version of himself switching. I think if there's something to learn from this character here, it is that we need to definitely take pictures of things that we see that are like this. I think I've been through a lot of crazy things in my life, and although this does not help you in your character to become a better human being, I have been in a lot of crazy things, and afterwards, you know, you try to explain the story to someone and they just don't believe you for one reason or another, but if you have pictures, a crazy story doesn't seem so crazy anymore. And so I think trying to understand something for yourself, but also being willing to try to help others to understand as well, so that you can maybe not be alone in that and not have to be so freaked out. Maybe if you would have sent some pictures to someone, they could have explained what actually happened, or maybe he could have found more people that have gone through something similar. Whatever it is, we just need to remember we're not alone. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm so grateful for the support and the love that the recent videos have gotten. I appreciate you all. And if you really liked the videos, and if you stayed until now, please, please, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me a lot, especially liking the video and commenting. It definitely boosts me in the algorithm to help this reach more people. And as I'm trying to genuinely give this a good shot for a business, I would love and appreciate every single person who does that. I'll make sure to respond to every comment as well. But anyways, this has been CC. Bye.